Good evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's last post ceremony. My name is Sam Kern, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Navy is Petty Officer Joshua O'Hanlon. This evening, we warmly welcome Group Captain Alan George, retired, representing the Air Force Association. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that love and support them. The live stream of the ceremony is made possible by the Return and Services League of Australia and the RSL and the Services Club Association. We welcome members who are watching the broadcast of the ceremony across Australia. During this evening's ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by visitors to the memorial. If you're able, please stand and join in singing the national anthem. If able, please be seated. The Australian War Memorial was a vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of the National Memorial and Museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they'd done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is a spirit, in the heart of the land they loved. And here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight, we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honor, which lists the names of more than 103,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and in operations for more than a century. But first, we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths of floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today, we remember and pay tribute to Flight Lieutenant Leo Braham Patkin. Leo Patkin was born on the 28th of September 1913 in the Melbourne suburb of St Kilda, the son of Maurice and Marie Patkin. His father worked as a director with the Myer Emporium in Melbourne. Patkin was educated at Melbourne Grammar School, and he had his bar mitzvah in September 1926. He went on to attend Melbourne University. He was well known as a golfer, representing the Yarra Yarra Golf Club, and was also a keen squash player for the Lane Squash Club. After leaving school, he followed in his father's footsteps and worked for Myer, eventually becoming departmental manager. On the 16th of September 1937, Patkin married Claire Benjamin. The couple went on to have two sons, Rex and Barry. Leo Patkin enlisted in the Royal Australian Air Force on the 3rd of January 1941. He trained as a pilot and received his wings in July. By September, he had been promoted to sergeant. On the 16th of October 1941, Patkin embarked for overseas service from Sydney, arriving in the United Kingdom in November. As part of the Empire Air Training Scheme, he was one of almost 27,500 pilots, navigators, wireless operators, air gunners, and flight engineers who, throughout the course of the war, joined Royal Air Force squadrons or Australian squadrons based in Britain. After further specialist training, in April 1942, Patkin joined No. 296 Squadron, Royal Air Force. He trained in towing gliders used to land soldiers on the continent and went on to be an instructor. On the 24th of August 1943, he was posted to No. 467 Squadron, RAF. As part of Bomber Command, the squadron flew 4-engined Avro Lancaster heavy bombers. By November, he had been promoted to acting flight lieutenant. On the night of 1st of January 1944, Bomber Command launched a raid on Berlin. Patkin was a pilot of Lancaster PO TAC-K, which took off from Royal Air Force Base Waddington shortly before 11:30 p.m. The aircraft was attacked by enemy fighters before it reached a target and lost a wing as a result. Out of control, the aircraft spiraled into the ground and exploded in a field near Albentington, some 220 kilometres from Berlin. With all bombs still aboard the aircraft, the explosion shattered roofs and windows of houses nearby. Those killed in the crash with Flight Lieutenant Patkin were Australian Flight Sergeants Arthur Bircher, William Blackwell, James Muddy and Henry Scott, along with British Airman Flying Officer Raymond Maidstone and Sergeants Ralph Chambers and George Litchfield. 7 bodies were recovered from the wreckage and buried at the Albenson Cemetery. Sergeant Chambers' body was never recovered. After the war, the remains of Commonwealth servicemen buried in Europe were examined and identified where possible. Patkin was identified by his clothing, and his remains were reinterred alongside those of his crewmates at Hanover War Cemetery, some 30 kilometres from the crash site. His grave bears the Hebrew inscription, a Jewish epitaph, meaning his soul may be bound up in the bonds of eternal life. In May 1944, Patkin's father passed away. His mother followed that December. He was dearly missed by his wife and sons and his many friends and colleagues who posted in memoriam notices in the newspaper. One, inserted by his wife and sons, read, "Forever we will remember him," while another from his aunt and uncle noted, "He was always smiling." Flight Lieutenant Leo Patkin's name is listed on the Roll of Honour on my left with some 40,000 others from the Second World War. His photograph is displayed today by the Pool of Reflection. This is but one of many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. We now remember Flight Lieutenant Leo Braham Patkin, who gave his life for us, for our freedoms, in hope of a better world.
Please stand for reading of the Ode and sounding of the last post.
They shall not grow old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them. Lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man lying out there at Pozier or in the low scrub at Gallipoli with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. On behalf of the director, staff, and volunteers, thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial today and for your continued support of the memorial's development project. We wish you all a very pleasant evening. Thank you and wish you all a Happy New Year.